Okay, chapter 4. I was late again for work on Monday. This time, Mrs. Kumalo herself greeted me. This is a business, Mumbai. Customers are waiting and you're modeling, she called out as I made my way up the driveway. Agnes sniggered as I quickened my pace. I'm sorry, but the combis from Kamfinsa were all full. I wonder what she was doing in so early. She seemed to be nervous as she stared at the slow procession of cars going down the road. I accompanied Sylvia, one of our regulars, to the basin. No time for tea when the boss is here. One day I'll have enough money for my own salon, I thought as I ran my fingers through her hair. Sylvia was a nurse at Parirenyatwa, and people in the medical field were always handy to know. Maybe she would help me to jump the queue one day, though God forbid I should get sick. Sylvia's hair was straight except in the nape of her neck, where her new curly hair was growing out in its natural state. You shouldn't have left it so long before coming in for a retouch. There's a lot of growth in here. I know, but money's hard to come by these days. Don't worry, I'll give you a discount today. Mrs. Kumalo cast a sharp glance my way, and I quickly added, this is your 10th consecutive visit, so you deserve it. There was something wrong today, and I could feel the tension in the air. It took me a while to realize what the problem was. Agnes, go and look up the street, said Mrs. Kumalo. That's why you shouldn't take these people in from the streets, quipped Charlie. He had a customer, a man having a punky haircut like he was still in the 80s. I wriggled my nose as the Revlon relaxer worked its magic on Sylvia's hair. Make sure you tell me when your scalp starts tingling, I told her. She knew the risks well. I remembered the first time she'd come in. Her scalp was scabbed, where she'd been burnt by Glen Tea, that horrible local stuff. It was weeks before she could have her hair done professionally. She'd stayed loyal ever since. Agnes returned, shaking her head. Did you look properly? Mrs. Kumalo asked. Yes, Mama, there's no one. Mrs. Kumalo looked downcast. She threw the cash book on the table, picked up her cell phone. She couldn't get a signal, so she stepped outside and hovered around trying until she got one. Tubisani, where are you? It's Mrs. Kumalo. Please call me when you get this message. We are tired of waiting for you. She hung up the phone and sighed. Maybe he has a problem. We all cast each other conspiratorial looks. This was not the boss we knew. How could she be so tolerant with someone not showing up? And on his first day, when we all knew there was hundreds of hairdressers looking for work. Mrs. K rolled up her sleeves and asked the next customer to come forward. In Zimbabwe, you have to learn to be a jack of all trades. Mrs. Kumalo was a hairdresser, farmer, trader, IT consultant, you name it, she did it. Only Agnes had the guts to ask her about this newfound blast of tolerance. What's so special about him? We can get someone else. There's something about that boy. I saw the way he styled Matilda's hair. He knows how to do the job better than some of you who've been here years. That stung. Who is she referring to, me or the other girls? I inserted the latest CD by Papa Wemba, my favorite Congolese artist, into the CD player. The salon was not complete without a little Roomba in the background. Even Mrs. Kumalo jiggled her hips in rhythm to the beat, and in that instant looked like a sexy young woman again. Do you have coffee Olomide or Kanda Bongoman? The customer said. We have everything you want, 100% satisfaction guaranteed. Hey Chinja, that CD. Agnes put in Kanda Bongoman on, and the customer laughed content. The guitars and the rhythmic beats from the Congo blared out and could be heard in the street. When we wanted to speak, we shouted above the music. Hand me that comb. Do this, do that. The salon came to life. A boy came in later that morning. He was not much older than my daughter. He wore shorts and a blue t-shirt that was so tight his belly button showed. My friezits, he said, lowering the large box that he carried on his unkempt head. We all bought the frozen popsicles more out of sympathy than because of the heat. He came by every day, and sometimes we brought nothing. There are many more like him roaming the city. I shuddered when I imagined my own child having to leave school and fend for herself. I recalled a time when the city council forced truant kids into school or rounded up street kids and put them in orphanages. Nowadays, nobody bothered. None of these high-handed measures had worked anyways. He thanked us and went on his way. I could see Mrs. Kumalo watching him until he was out of sight. Her face showed a mother's concern and a helplessness all rolled into one. She already had far too many mouths to feed. A shiny black Mercedes C-Class pulled in. Agnes lowered the volume on the stereo. My heart beat faster. It was our top client. The chauffeur ran around and opened the door for her. I was disappointed she'd not brought her husband with her. He was a nice man who sometimes hung about and chatted while her hair was being done. The lady, who was Minister M, after what happened, I could never bring myself to mention her by name, got out and walked towards us. Mrs. Kumalo was beside herself, ordering Memory to sweep hair from the floor. Yolanda got a chair ready and stood behind it as the minister made her way in. So good to see you again. How are you? Please sit down. There's a slight tremor in Mrs. K's voice. She clapped her hands in the traditional fashion, and the lady responded in kind. Minister M came in to get her hair done once a month. She had grown up in rural Chivu, Charter as it was known then, the same area that Mrs. Kumalo came from. A lot of people assumed Mrs. Kumalo was Ndembele, but actually she was Shona. And it was her husband who had the Ndembele roots. The minister even called her Vatete, auntie, because by some conjuring trick they had managed to establish a relationship based on their totems. Minister M had joined the liberation struggle when she was only 14. She had trained in Zambia with the Zanla and had fought bravely against the Rhodesian army. After independence, she entered politics and continued with her schooling. In the late 80s, she became a deputy minister and later a full minister. She wore spectacles and had a gap in her teeth, which made it sound like she was whistling when she spoke. Vimbai, are you going to do my hair? She always asked this, even though she knew I was the only one allowed to touch her. I left my customer for Yolanda to finish off. How's Chiwoniso? That's her name, isn't it? I wish I brought something for her. She's fine. You got her name right. It amazed me the way she remembered our names, although we were nobodies. How's your mother feeling these days? She asked Memory. Much better, but her bones cause her problems when it's raining. The minister nodded sympathetically. She getting the medicine she needs? Yes, but it's expensive. Things are very difficult these days. Go to the pharmacy on Angwa Street. Tell them I sent you, and they'll give you whatever you need for her. Make sure you take a prescription. Memory clapped her hands and thanked the minister. Tears formed in her eyes as if she was overwhelmed. The minister pretended not to notice and turned to Yolanda. Are you still going to night school? I'm getting ready for my final exams. You're a good girl. You'll pass. The country needs educated young people like you. You are the future. Yolanda bowed her head, slightly embarrassed. She was doing A-levels at night because her parents didn't have the money to send her to a good school. She could have gone to a B school somewhere in the townships, but she was a classy girl and refused to. Who are you? The minister asked a customer who was sitting in the corner waiting. The customer seemed surprised that she was being spoken to. Me? She asked. The minister gestured yes patiently. I'm Patience Chidhakwa. The minister thought for a minute and spoke slowly. The Chidhakwa is from Buhera? Yes. What's your phone number? It's 01135. No, you're supposed to say 999210, said Mrs. Kumala, referring to an old hit song from the 80s, and laughed loudly. She's too young to know this, the minister laughed as well. So Patience, you're my little sister because I have a cousin who's married into your people. Who would not be pleased to know they're in some way related to the minister? I liked the way she whistle-spoke and carried herself. There was a down-to-earth quality about her. She felt like one of the girls, even though we all knew she was loaded. She spoke with Mrs. Kumalo about her farm and encouraged her. When she left, we all felt special, even as we stared after her shiny car that lay far beyond our wildest dreams.